Come satisfy your appetite for wealth with baking profits. Now, here's your hosts, Mike and Brad. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Baking Profits. We're your hosts, Mike, aka DeFi Donut.
And I'm Brad, aka the Bread Maker.
And today we're going to dive into technical analysis versus news and take a look at Web 1.0, 2.0, and Web 3.0, and then wrap up about digital entities. And if you'd like to, you can follow the crumbs on our socials at Baking Profits, at Bread Bites, at the Bread Maker, at DeFi Donut.
And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And today we are drinking Blade and Bow. It's all right.
Yeah, I'd probably say, I'd probably put this in top 5.
You really?
Yeah.
Not me, man.
No? It's got that like...
top 10.
I don't know, you know how some of those whiskeys have that like, kind of like a pepper kind of taste, you know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
All right, well, I guess I can't go with that then. I don't know, man. It's got this weird like... kind of like sweet taste, but also this like kind of peppery, almost like a Dr. Pepper, not like actual pepper, but like,
yeah,
I don't even know how to explain it. It's a little bit, it's a weird tasting whiskey compared to the other ones we've had.
If I could give some feedback back to this company, it was very hard to open this bottle. I thought the key was like, oh, okay, yeah. I just need to rip it open. Not the case. I had to take a knife and essentially cut the top off.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, you went classy with a butter knife. So, I mean, that's the best way to do it. You know,
I wasn't gonna say it was a butter knife. You know, I was thinking Crocodile Dundee knife.
Yes, wasn't that cool?
Is what it is. But anyways, yes. So we are gonna start today off talking a little bit about technical analysis and how news can interrupt this. You know. Not going to lie, this subject came up because of a recent interaction that you had with someone on Twitter, and I thought this would make a really good... Yeah. I thought this would make a really good topic, and I think a lot of people are, maybe not as informed of how news impacts the market and how technical analysis can be traded alongside of news. So, we really wanted to dive into that. I know just... in case you're wondering, like, what is technical analysis? Technical analysis is just the breakdown of what's happening on the chart. You're looking at patterns, tracking momentum and trend and volatility, looking at the volume. And there's so many different indicators that will help you determine whatever you're looking to determine on that chart. But when it comes to news, let me hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so to kind of, I guess, bring everybody up to speed a little bit that may be listening is, essentially I kind of had a conversation back and forth with a handful of different people on how, news is highly unpredictable, in my opinion. You don't really necessarily know what or when it's going to come out and how that's going to impact the markets. And I had some, back and forth with some people online about how you can essentially predict what's going to happen with the market from a news standpoint based off technical analysis. In my opinion, that is just like wildly bogus. From a news standpoint, you never really know what's going to happen from a news standpoint. Even just some stuff that's pretty consistent, like CPI reports and PPI reports, and whenever Powell has economic conferences and speakings and meetings and things like that, FOMC meetings, even just your traditional news. Recently, kind of one of the areas that we were somewhat debating was the XRP news. It had won in a court hearing, and it sent XRP through the roof. It sent the markets up. This was probably about 2 weeks ago now. And my kind of argument to this was, you don't know that that's going to happen until it happens. So it's a reactionary situation. And I kind of got into it back and forth on Twitter with some people basically saying that they, were able to predict that this was going to happen basically from technical analysis, which I call massive BS on. In my opinion, don't want to necessarily call people out and stuff, but at the end of the day, like, it calls into question their credibility, in my opinion, if they have that kind of a mindset, because there's no way you can predict that. If in hindsight, you could. I mean, if I looked at a chart afterwards on XRP, I'm sure I could find some technical analysis related, thought or assumption that had been like, oh yeah, if I had been looking at these specific indicators, it would have indicated that XRP was bullish. And then in this case, it popped off, and I would have been able to make money. But I would love to see someone show me that during a CPI event or a PPI event or FOMC meeting or any news event that they were ahead of it due to technical analysis. I call 1,000% BS on that. Nobody's able to do that because news is unpredictable. You could have a positive reaction to a CPI or PPI that is bearish and vice versa. So like, it's complete nonsense to me. It's a kind of a frustrating topic for me to talk about because whenever anybody tries to contradict me, I'm just so, like, this is whack that I can't even like take their opinion seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think news impacts the market in ways that it is unpredictable. I mean, in some cases, there is that, like the old saying, buy the rumor, sell the news. Like if you happen to know, for example, let's say, let's say Elon Musk was like, you know what, in the near future, I'm going to resign as CEO. It's like, okay, that message is news itself. It is going to create waves, but possibly the resignation of him as CEO on that day, maybe that will impact the market as well, but probably not as much as just the initial shock of it all. And I think that's why, like when the XRP situation happened, or you get information through, FOMC, when it happens right then and there, we all find out about it at the same time. The market is wildly unpredictable. It's a flip of a coin for sure. I know you.
Sometimes you can get burned in both directions too. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, a lot of times that can happen. So, if you take your example of Elon Musk saying he's gonna resign from the position, and he announces that, basically what other people are saying is, let's just hypothetically say in that scenario, Twitter goes up 10% after he announces that. Essentially, what the other side of the coin is saying, which I'm disagreeing with, is they're saying that I could use technical analysis to have already been in a bullish long position to prepare myself for that kind of news. And I'm calling BS on that 100%.
Absolutely.
Now, like I said, hindsight, if he were to do something like that, and if Twitter were to go up 10%, I could easily go back on the chart and be like, oh yeah, you see right here, this RSI was down here and this was here, and I could have, gone long at this point in time, and, I would have predicted this correctly. But I want to see someone in the moment accurately, consistently trading news based off technical analysis, and I can almost guarantee you nobody can do it because it's bullshit.
Yeah, so what are you saying, that news will ruin technical analysis?
Yes, in most cases I believe so. I believe TA is out the window when news is in play. You can't really do much with TA when news events hit. Like, if you have a specific set parameters, I know we've traded, in the past a lot on support and resistance, and sometimes that's worked really, or most of the time that's worked really, really well. But sometimes when a news event happens, we might have a bounce off support and we're like, all right, this position's going pretty well. And then the news event may tank the market. It may shed through support and then we take a loss. In my opinion, TA goes out the window as soon as that news event comes on. And for other people to say or think that, essentially technical, you can predict the way the news event is going to go based off technical analysis indicators, 1,000% bullshit. Anybody that says that, in my opinion, I lose massive credibility on anything that they say going forward after that, because it's just like, I can't even wrap my brain around how somebody could even think that way. It makes no logical sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is like, especially around support and resistance, it's a little bit easier. But like if a price comes up to the resistance level and it rejects over and over and over again, and you see that this is, maybe the highest high of the year or the 2 year or maybe all time, if a news event occurs and it takes the price above that, you have all this evidence that says, hey, the price has come up here dozens of times and has never broken this except this, one little blip here. The odds are that it is going to reject again and again and again. until something pushes it up forward. And I think there's just so many people that are on that herd mentality or that hold, mentality where it's like, yes, I have to fully 100% dive into this entire ecosystem, make it my lifestyle, and only shill this one, product, which I got to hand it to the XRP community. They are excellent at that.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are ride or dies.
100%.
Crazy.
All in.
Yeah, super all in. And they talked it up during the entire downfall of it. I don't own XRP. I don't really know. I haven't really done much research on it to understand what is even happening. To me, it's always just been like, it is what it is. It's caught up in some litigation. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from the XRP standpoint, I mean, dude, it's crazy the what people think will happen to this thing. It goes into a whole nother topic of just like, I see people all the time, oh yeah, this coin's going to be $10, $20, $30 in the future. I'm like, dude, goddamn idiot.
That's trillions of market cap.
Yeah. It's just like, why are you so dumb? But I mean, even like a lot of people thought the SEC news, and they're like, oh, once XRP, wins this hearing, it's going to be, it's going to overtake Bitcoin and stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't even pay that attention because I'm just like, the XRP maxis are just like, I mean, it's insane. It's like, yeah, I don't even understand it. I can't wrap my brain around it. That's a whole another side topic, but yeah, just from the TA side of things, it's just, technical analysis is technical analysis. Fundamental analysis is fundamental analysis. And then there's the news factor, which is its own realm of it's the wild card in all of it. Fundamental, in my opinion, you use a lot of that for your long-term plays and identifying the structure and longevity and long-term, viability of a company. And then technical analysis is your, you can kind of use it in any way. You can use it short-term, mid-term, or long-term based off of, technical things. And then the news is the wild card piece. Especially if you're trading, short-term trades or small swing trades or things like that, news can disrupt all of that, plan and unravel your whole trade, or make your whole trade for you. But in my opinion, what ends up happening, and the reason people have this, other notion that they can, predict a news-based move based off of technical analysis. One is most of these people look at hindsight. They're not actively trading it and actively looking at it. So, in my opinion, if you're telling me you're looking at this in hindsight, you've already lost me. Like I'm already out. I've tapped out at that point. I'm like, there's no point. Like you're not doing yourself any favors by saying like, oh yeah, if you had looked at this specific thing, last week, you would have predicted this. Okay. It's like, okay, I could have 100% win rate on all my trades if I look back and knew exactly what was going to happen before it happened. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's a freaking joke. And I can almost guarantee you, I'll put anybody to the test. I'd love to watch somebody consistently use technical analysis prior to news coming out and consistently have a win rate. I bet most of them are sub 50% at least, probably in the 30 to 40% range. Because like I said, there's a lot of times, especially with like CPI and PPI and those, monthly or weekly, known events, you get burned in both directions. Mm-hmm. It'll go up and then it'll go down and it might go back up, or vice versa. It might go down and then go back up and then down again. You get chopped up in all kinds of ways that way. So I don't buy anybody that can live trade news, pre-news essentially, based off of technical analysis and consistently hit on it. It's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think news and how it interacts with the market has changed so much over time. I mean, think about 20 years ago, the type of news that moved the markets versus the type of news that moves the markets nowadays. We are so connected to everything that is happening. So there are plenty of events that occur, throughout all the weeks, every week that probably would have tanked the market 20 years ago. And, I think it's good and bad. It's good to have access to all of this news. It's good to, be connected. And it definitely helps us make more informed trades. Like when we can go to a company's website, we can look at their roadmap, we can see the initiatives that they're putting forth, and then we can, for example, like maybe they're doing business in, a foreign country. We can go to that country. We can see like, how is this business being interpreted? There are ways that you can analyze your investments that you could have never done 20 years ago. But I also think that, there's just so much information, so many things happening that, you know, it's weird. Like sometimes big things happen and the price barely does anything, or it does the opposite. And it really is a sell the news type of situation. Or on the other hand, there's small things that happen that just move the market where you're like, wait, what? So to me, news is always a flip of a coin.
Yeah, it's definitely the wild card, and just overall trading analysis. That's your biggest wild card is the news piece. If you hear anybody saying that they can predict it based off of technical analysis, I'd be running for the hills as soon as somebody says that, because they have no idea what they're talking about. But kind of going back to what you were saying about markets and the news and 10 to 20 years ago versus now, I mean, yeah, it's wildly different. The whole way you receive news is so different now, whether, in the past it being a newspaper or something like that, you got to imagine how delayed that is. I'd also be interested to know how delayed the markets were to news events compared to now. I mean, I think they're much more reactionary now, but it might be a smaller reaction than what you would get 10, 20 years ago. But people have information at their fingertips now. All their trading applications have news in them.
Yeah.
You use Apple like Twitter and stuff like that. You can get push notification alerts and stuff like that. But also think of the flip side of this, of like, think about the people that were like privy to this news beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the upper hand that they had 10, 20 years ago had to have been insane from an insider trading or like a manipulation side of things. I mean, I got to imagine people that had insider information or news preemptively from like a company or something like that they worked for, or news publication or something like that, if they were savvy investors or traders, I'm like, dude, they probably made fucking bank.
Yeah. I mean, Nancy Pelosi. How many times have I dropped her on this podcast?
Need to have her on as a guest so we can grill her.
Jesus Christ, that would be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of places that people get news. You brought up a good point. You can get it straight from your exchange, and while you're making that trade, you can get live news. I know for traditional finance, I get a lot of my news through CNBC. I actually get a good weekly recap from StockTwits. They send a email out.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Every single day, and occasionally I'll happen to catch it, and it gives a pretty good summary of like what went down, and they include crypto and traditional finance in there. And sometimes it's, like I'll see something like, oh, I didn't know that this was going to be a thing. Like, I mean, I learned about I believe it was the TD Ameritrade getting bought out
by Schwab.
Yeah. I think I learned about that through one of StockTwist emails. But yeah, things like that, newsletters, there's a lot of crypto sites that cater to news. Curious to know though, like where are you getting your news from?
Yeah, I think my number one spot is honestly CNBC. It's a little bit, I mean, it's obviously a lot of bit less crypto related.
Yeah.
But I follow them on Twitter. They have like a decent amount of sub accounts within CNBC that are various things that I follow as well. And I feel like they do a good job of just like, especially on Twitter. I try and stay on Twitter and fairly active on there pretty regularly. So they're pretty good about like consistently posting articles or information or whatever it may be based off market conditions or what's happening in the market. So that's probably one of my go-to sources. And then obviously just Twitter in general. I mean, obviously especially if something's happening in the crypto markets, somebody I'm following or somebody in my news feed is talking about what's happened or is happening in the markets, and then it's easy for me to kind of spiderweb from there into searching additional information on it, or finding other people talking about it, finding additional information about it. So it's crazy how fast you can just like absorb a ton of information now, in a matter of minutes,
Yeah.
through different, various ways of gathering information. But Twitter is my main source, but I would say within Twitter, CNBC is probably my main go-to.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I kind of think about like, is this a good thing? Really? Like, I know it is good for making more informed decisions, but overall, is it good that we have access to all of this information? Is it too much? It's kind of like, when you see those people who just learn technical analysis, really, and they have like 50 fucking indicators on their chart, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Paralysis by analysis right there,
Yes.
for sure.
I think about that all the time. It's like, maybe it's not so good that we have this easy access to so much news. I mean, so I've mentioned this before, but like, sometimes I'll just be scrolling on Reddit, the public. Like, first off, got to be careful with that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll just be flipping through the videos, and then boom, I just watched a homeless dude just get shot in the head or something. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And it's like, do I need to see this? Like,
Yeah.
what is it seems like everybody's recording everything nowadays, and stuff like that has impact on news. Like, I mean, there's definitely been times where CEOs of companies have been caught doing something that they probably shouldn't have been doing, and it was filmed about, and people were like, you know what, this is going to affect the stock price. And sure enough, it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who are hired just to figure out news about these CEOs, like track these people.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Look at the things that are happening in this company, and see, is there anything going down that would impact it? I mean, especially on these higher profile companies. I mean, like, I'm assuming everything that Elon Musk touches is like heavily watched at all times.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they've got people watching him, and then they've probably got people on Elon's side, watching the people that are trying to watch him, and it's just a little cat and mouse game that they probably play.
Exactly. We keep calling it Twitter. It's X.com now.
Well, is it? Did they get the .com, or I don't know?
Yeah. So he actually, when he so he started out with this. He wanted to revolutionize the banking industry, and
Right.
he became part of PayPal, and they were X.com, and eventually turned to PayPal. And he ended up buying back X.com after selling all of his shares in PayPal to eBay. And I don't think it was ever disclosed like how much he paid for it, but I'm assuming it was little. And he's had X.com all the way back since what I think is like late 90s or so.
Wow.
So he's been sitting on it for a while.
That's crazy. I saw some article about how Facebook somehow owns something X.com related or something like that he's going to have to try and get, which I'm like, him and Zuck is going to be a...
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a situation right there. But kind of going back to what you were saying about the, is the amount of news that we get now better than what it was in the past? And it's like, I think about that a little bit, and I'm like, I kind of agree that it probably is a little bit paralysis by analysis because we have so much information. But I think the bigger worry that I have, as AI and things like that come along, it's like the potential false news or imitation news or things that look real. Like, how are we discerning what's real and what's not going forward? I think that's going to be a challenge. I mean, if you think about it, when Elon not first, but early on in his Twitter tenureship, when he first was allowing anybody to get verified, basically if they paid for Twitter Blue, he had, I think it was like there was companies that were imitating other companies that were getting verified before that company would, and then they would tweet out news. I can't remember what company it was, but it was a publicly traded company, but it wasn't the actual company. It was some random person that got verified with a very, very similar Twitter handle, and then they posted out some bad news about the company, and the company's stock price dropped like 8.5%, like immediately. but it was just some random dude just making up some
Just a
shit.
parody account.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, and that was like even, well, I wouldn't say it was necessarily pre Chat GPT, but it was just pre a lot of this like AI hype. And I'm like, as this AI hype becomes bigger and more sophisticated, I'm like, man, it's gonna be tough to sift through what's real and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that I worry about when it comes to machine learning and the basic, artificial intelligence that we know, like, I mean, not full on robotics or anything, but, think about it will know the spending habits of the area you live in, right? I mean, they already can determine that. Like, if I want to build a donut shop and I want to put it somewhere, there are ways for me to figure out the most optimum place to put that donut shop. Well, now they're going to be able to figure out like when, how much volume is done on each day of the week, at what period of time, and what is happening. Like, what are the Americans doing? What are the Asians doing? Like, is there anything that are common similarities between the two? They can start tying all these things together and find these optimum trade zones for algorithmic bots run by AI to perform these trades, because maybe people are bored. I know so many people that trade Robinhood, like, I mean, pretty idiotically, but just like, I'm kind of bored. I'm going to see if I can make $5. And they just take a trade and they watch it. And then it's like, boom, they sell. It's just like, I
Yeah,
made
yeah.
$5. And it's so crazy and dumb. And it usually works in their favor because it's so small amount of money and they're not overthinking it. But I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that are taken advantage of, in ways they're going to be influenced in ways. I mean, they might be influenced to buy certain companies. Like, for example, let's say, the narrative for the AI is to, hey, let's promote Microsoft. They can promote Microsoft in so many subtle ways where it's never received as
An
Microsoft promotion.
advertisement. Yeah.
Yeah. And they could be subtly getting into people's brains and thinking like, man, Microsoft is going to be doing great things. I'm going to buy Microsoft. Scary.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big challenge and a big kind of roadblock for AI going forward. I mean, they're already gathering a lot of that stuff from, they're building a profile on people based off their social media habits and their internet, habits, and what websites they go to, when they go to those websites, how much time they spend on those websites, things like that. I mean, they're, each person has a kind of like web profile that's been built by these social media companies and things like that, that they can just, track you down to a T and kind of mold what you look at or what you're interested in and influence those things. So it is definitely scary, and it's going to be interesting what the next like 3 to 5 years look like, for sure, because AI can, has a potential to do a lot of different things, good and bad, as with anything. So it's just a matter of like how most people are going to utilize it and how easily it's going to be able to blend and identify what's factual and what's not, and what's real and what's fake.
Yeah. You kind of just segued into like our next topic of discussing like the web 1.0s to web 3.0s, and what you kind of described is a little bit of the future of web 3.0. But I know this question comes up a lot. I've seen it a lot on threads, actually, of people just wanting to know like, what the hell is web 3.0? Like, what was web 1.0? What was web 2.0? And I've actually been engaging with these individuals and kind of answering this question. And I know a lot of people have asked me this question like in real life, but web 1.0 is like the start of everything, right? It's like little to no interaction. It's sort of like going to, Amazon.com and buying a book. And that's all you did is you bought an item, and that was it. That was all the interaction. Very basic websites. Web kind of 1.5 introduced like the chatting. That's like the AOL. It's like, okay, now there's a little bit of interaction between people, and I can chat with somebody, but that's about all that I can do. Now, Web 2.0 is where things get a little interesting, because now in Web 2.0, you have the ability to like, for example, leave reviews. Like now it's like I'm purchasing a product and I'm interacting with it in a way that's going to impact the purchasing of other people's. Like I'm able to say this product is great or this product is not great. We're able to create social medias and, like you said, like social profiles for yourself that is built by companies. And Web 2.0 is sort of like where everything that crypto is now was kind of derived from. And Web 2.5 is, like, in my mind, is kind of like an Uber. You think about it, you open up an app and you digitally order a ride that physically shows up. You can digitally leave a review, and it's got this built-in machine learning into it. It's saying like, hey, these are the peak times, the cost is going to go up. Oh, you're near downtown and it's close to the clubs coming, closing, time prices are going to go up. So there is that machine learning built into it. And that is what Web 3.0 is all machine learning. And I think everything that you talked about kind of ties into what Web 3.0 is. It's just that there are entities out there that are mining us. Like we are the product
Right.
for these social media companies. And it's hard to understand because everybody uses this product for free, but how often are you using it in a way that is beneficial to yourself? Like I know firsthand, sometimes I get lost in the sauce. I'm like 35 videos in on like Instagram shorts or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It's scary.
I mean, it is. I mean, they're able to cater the content to know exactly what you like and what is, piquing your interest, and kind of keep feeding it to you so you stay on their platform longer. So, it's scary and beneficial at the same time. I mean, I think, I kind of wonder if, how many people are finding a benefit from it versus like an entertainment factor. I would assume most, from a social media standpoint and from just like a web standpoint in general, it's more of an entertainment factor than it is anything else. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that, maybe they use TikTok or Instagram or any of these other social media channels, and they're able to absorb a lot of information and learn things that they didn't know before, or they can use in their day-to-day life as an application to things that make them beneficial. I know, dude, one that was like eye-opening to me, I think your wife shared it with me or something like that, which was this person that showed how to hang a picture frame by using like a piece of painter's tape behind it, and then you like mark where the hole is, and then you put the painter's tape up, make sure it's level, and then the hole's already there basically. You put it in, and it's like boom. It took me like, dude, I started hanging picture frames like a freaking professional after that, and it was like I think she sent my wife like a 2-minute TikTok or something like that, and like that kind of stuff is like, okay, well, this just saved me a shit ton of time from having to hang all these stupid ass pictures, by and having to take 24 measurements to make sure it's hanging correctly. And this little hack was beneficial, which I know is kind of a popular way to absorb social media content now, but I would assume 80 to 90% of it is pure entertainment factor.
Yeah, I kind of got lost in this thought the other night, but I was thinking about the like YouTube and how much has YouTube hurt the overall economy? Because when I think of it this way, I'm like, first off, I was thinking about it because I'm like, man, I've learned so much stuff on YouTube. I haven't had to call out so many people to do repairs on something because I'm just like, oh, I'm going to YouTube it. And I mean, obviously I have my own wall, but there are some people that are like, I'm doing everything myself.
True.
And this whole, DIY like movement just kind of came about. Everybody's refinishing their house. Like, oh, I just refinished my kitchen. And it's like, how much money are people saving that was pulled from the economy? And also on top of that, think about all the time that is wasted sitting and viewing YouTube. Like, imagine you go back to the 1700s and you're telling people like, oh yeah, I sit in front of a tiny little rectangle for 5 hours a day. They're like, wait, what? Like, I'm sure every minute of their day was packed just to survive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, now we've grown as a, culture and economy, but we have people that are just literally wasting their lives in front of this for no reason. We also have other people that are making money off of that in a weird way. It's just like, oh, I get to sit here and kind of like, how are they contributing to society? You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely goes both ways, because it's like, okay, yes, there are companies out there, your handyman companies and stuff like that maybe get impacted by the people that are just like, you know what, I'm just gonna watch a YouTube video and figure this out myself. But then on the flip side of that, person that made the YouTube videos probably making money. So it's like that money is still exchanging hands. It's just exchanging hands in a different way than it's a less traditional way of,
So I guess it's
money transfer.
It's going, instead of the handyman, it's going to the YouTuber.
Yeah, the YouTuber. Yeah. They're making money on the video that they have, or the ad revenue, or whatever it may be, that they've generated from that video, and rather than going to the handyman. And then so like but it's great for the end user, because the end user is getting this completely free. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, the handyman potentially loses a little bit of money on their end. That money gets moved over to the content creator. But then when it funnels down, instead of the user paying the handyman, they're getting the content from the content creator for free. But then the content creator is getting paid from the conglomerate of YouTube. So it's an interesting funnel, because at the end of the day, I would assume that the user is the beneficiary of everything, because they don't have to pay the handyman. They don't have to get overpriced or potentially price gouged, or, whatever, or even just pay out of pocket for this. And at the same time, they're kind of more or less learning a new skill that they could potentially apply in future uses. I know dating years and years back, I know it's a pretty simple task, but I had to learn how to install a fan in one of my rooms. And I watched a YouTube video on how to install a fan. I installed it. It worked fine. And then I moved into this new house a year and a half ago, and there was 3 bedrooms that didn't have fans, and I wanted to have fans in each one of those rooms. So I bought 3 of the same fan, and I was able to install it in all those rooms without having to really watch a video or anything like that, because it's kind of like I've been there, done that. Whereas if I hadn't watched that YouTube video, probably would have paid a handyman to install that fan. And then when I moved to my new house, I would have paid another handyman to install 3 more fans, which, you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of dollars that I essentially saved, and I learned a skill on how to install a ceiling fan.
Yeah. It's so weird that this is a career for people, because again, I just think going back to like, early 1900s, and, you're like, you got factory workers, you've got, Wall Street, even was probably a foreign concept to them. But now it's like, oh, what do you do? Oh yeah, I'm an influencer. Or what? I make videos. I sell. What do you sell? Nothing. I sell nothing. I sell air. What?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like it, in my opinion. Honestly, I think it's nice that you as a person can just like take whatever skill you may have and apply it and find a way to make money out of it, rather than being forced to go the 9 to 5 route, or forced to, work a factory job or something like that just to pay the bills. It's like, okay, well, I've got so many different ways in this like gig economy to make money. This is why I feel like, just about anybody, if they have the work ethic for it, can, make money. It's more of a will issue than a skill issue, in my opinion. Yeah. If you want to do it, there's ways to do it. If you don't want to do it, or you don't have the work ethic to do it, well, then you're probably just going to be one of those people that just sits around and complains about not having enough money. But at the end of the day, every single person out there, if they want to make money, there's ways to make money. And this time and this age that we're in right now is the easiest way to make money to do whatever you want to do than it's ever been, in the history of mankind, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. And then it seems like the more niche you are, the more effective you can be. I mean, when I think about some of the coolest videos that I've watched, like they're the most random things. Like I watched this one video about bow fishing, and I don't know, this the way the guy was explaining it, the way he was doing, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And I realized like I've been watching this for 30 minutes, and it's weird. But me and my kid, we watched this one guy. He builds these things in the jungle, and he builds like these structures, like these like little mini castles. And then at the very end, he puts like kittens in them. But
What?
but he has like moats and drawbridges and like
That's cool.
yeah, I mean it is cool, and he builds it out of clay and just brush and all things. Like there's this one guy, he makes these ant farms that are like, I don't know if it's sand or what, but he builds like a little ant city, and then he like puts all these ants in them, and you're just but it's the stupidest shit. But it's like it's sucking up my time. It's sucking up my kids' time, and it's like, wow, okay.
And if it's sucking up that time, at the end of the day, that dude's getting paid.
Exactly. And I see the views on it, and I'm like, oh, I mean, it was probably recommended in some form or fashion to us. So,
which means it's got a good bit of following or views already.
yeah, and this is essentially what Web 3.0 is. It's a
Pretty much
digital economy, and part of the digital economy is content. Content is a currency, and having, it seems like everybody, I mean, I guess technically everybody is a content creator. We're all creating our own thoughts in our head, and as soon as you write that out and put it on social media, it's like you have a voice, it is being heard. And what's scary is, and I think this is where things can get dangerous, is the machine learning and algorithms part of it. It's like now, especially like in social media and Facebook, there are algos at play, for narratives. Like we've seen it in elections where, the narrative is one presidential candidate over another. We've seen it, with how, COVID, and some people feel like COVID was blown out of proportion because of such stuff like this. So I think that while there's so much good to it, there is a danger side of it. And another big part of Web 3.0 that is tied to it is crypto. It's like, it's this digital currency. It's this peer-to-peer exchange that really is never seen before. Like eBay is a good example of a Web 2.0 peer-to-peer, because it's like you're using eBay to sell one thing to another person. But as soon as you go Web 3.0, it's like you and I, there's no middleman. It's all decentralized, and it's me and you sending money anonymously and
directly to each other.
Yeah, and we're interacting with services that are created from thin air, and we're using advanced mathematics and the baby stages of AI to really guide it further. And I mean, I know eventually there will be a 4.0. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're not even far enough into Web 3.0 yet to even get past what that is and what Web 4.0 is. I don't even think everybody's fully wrapped their head around and obviously embraced Web 3.0. It's not even, it's definitely not mainstream yet. We're still a ways away from mainstream Web 3.0, but yeah, I'll be interested to see what the future holds and what everything ends up looking like once the adoption, comes into play. But, I think crypto is going to be a massive factor. I mean, in my opinion, whenever I think Web 3.0, I'm immediately thinking of crypto. And that's, in my opinion, most of what Web 3.0 is made up of. So it's just a matter of how long is it going to take for that mainstream adoption to take place. I was telling you a little bit earlier before we did the podcast, I saw a coffee shop that I don't even know where it was. I think it's in the U.S. that specifically was taking USDC as one of the only forms of payment that they would accept at the coffee shop. You could go into the coffee shop, strictly crypto, and you could, scan with like a Coinbase wallet account or something like that. You type in the amount, pay it. There was no gas fees, no nothing. It was quick, instant transactions, and you were able to grab a cup of coffee, hang out at the cafe. Pretty cool to see that in action, I guess. Haven't really seen much of that take place just yet from a crypto standpoint. So cool to see that, and I think that's just kind of the beginning of kind of what Web 3.0 can be.
Yeah, it's I mean, a big part of it is it's the digital entities that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. And I mean, I know you got a Palo ID, which would love to explore here, but as you create these digital entities of ourselves, these digital identities, we have spending patterns, we have tone, things like businesses can use this as a new version of what a credit score is, and they can say, hey, you know what, I don't really like how this person interacted with these people on Twitter. That doesn't seem like someone who'd be a good fit for our team. And I think a lot of older people don't consider any of that. And when they're
Definitely not.
when they're going online and typing, most people probably don't consider it, let's be honest. But the younger generations, I think they do kind of consider it a little bit different. They consider it like
It says it's part of their interactions.
yes.
Whereas I think older generations there's a disconnect there. It's like I'm my person, and then online I'm this person essentially.
Yes.
Not quite like a catfish situation, but kind of. It's like they're two different identities. Where I think the younger generation is just like they've grown up with it, so it's like the whatever they say on the internet is an extension of themselves. Whereas, the older generation, I think they're almost like two separate entities.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the avatar situation, right? Like if I'm like, you're still human, but you're also this avatar while you're the avatar, and
Yeah.
and it's the same as going online, and
Reminds me of this show that I've been watching, this Upload show.
that's pretty cool.
I don't know. I've been watching it pretty religiously. It's all right. It's not. It's kind of this like dramedy type of show. It's decent, but yeah, it's kind of like that. It's basically essentially like futuristic ish, and it's basically how this dude dies essentially, and they have this situation or program called Upload, and you can basically upload yourself into a digital avatar of yourself and kind of have like your own afterlife, and people from your day-to-day life can interact with you in your afterlife avatar. But yeah, anyways, I mean, I think it's just kind of one of those things where the younger generation, it's definitely their social media interactions and the things they do on the internet is definitely a full-on extension of themselves, extension of their personality, extension of who they are. Whereas I think the older generation, there's definitely a disconnect in between the person that you interact with online versus the person you talk to in person.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Twitter, handlers, or like Watcher Guru, for example. Like if that guy was like, oh, hey, everybody, my name is Ben. No one's going to call him Ben. They're going to be like Watcher Guru. There's people who have taken on those pseudonyms that kind of just...
They take on their online personality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's just who they are. But I did want to talk about the Palo thing because this is interesting. So I guess just tell us about what the heck this is and how you got it.
Yeah. So I got an ID from a country of residency, what's called Palo. The website is rns.id. It's a pretty interesting concept. It's essentially a country that offers a digital residency ID within their country. Super crypto friendly country, and essentially you can apply to become a resident of Palo, and when you get their ID, you get a residency ID as a resident of that country. And essentially some of the benefits that you get from this is it allows you to potentially KYC yourself within certain exchanges. So I've tested this out on quite a few exchanges. The main ones that's worked really well on is I was able to get KYC with BitGet. I was able to get KYC'd with KuCoin. I was able to get KYC with Bybit. Some of the ones I couldn't get it to work on. Some people did say they got it to work on Binance. I'm not exactly sure how they were able to get it to work on Binance. I really wanted it to work on Binance, but I could not get the ID to work on Binance. Binance, every time I was going through the KYC process with Binance, they were requesting a passport, not an ID. So I couldn't get past that one. OKX was another one that I couldn't get on. BingX was another one that I couldn't get on. BingX, the main reason I couldn't get on them was because they didn't even whenever you go to KYC and you click on the drop down options, they didn't even have Palo as a country that I could select. So I kind of scratched that one right off from the beginning. But it's a cool concept. It's essentially, you do have to pay for it. It's a yearly renewal of your residency within the country. It's like $250. So not cheap, but not super expensive. You break that out over a 12-month time frame, it's not a ton of money. At the end of the day, it's like $20 a month, essentially. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's interesting to see these countries do this kind of thing. In my opinion, it's great for the country. One, they're generating income. Two, they're offering crypto services, and they're kind of accepting that Web 3.0 future mentality. In my opinion, they're kind of like seeing around corners a little bit and identifying like, hey, this is pretty popular. This could potentially be a big thing for us. And if they hit on it early, it could be a big boom for their economy within their specific country. So it's an interesting concept that they've, built out within their country, and, something I'm interested in kind of seeing what the future has in store. Obviously, I'm kind of invested in them at the moment through my digital residency. It's been a benefit to me just by being able to KYC with some of these exchanges. So, there's a lot of other perks that they offer. They offer, discounts on hotels, and, I think you can use it as an ID for different websites and memberships like Costco and stuff like that. So, like I said, pretty interesting concept, pretty unique idea. I'm interested to see how this idea evolves over the future and what the country itself does with their, the amount of crypto friendliness they have, currently going for them.
Yeah. So, couple questions here. Did you get a physical ID?
Yeah. So you start off with a digital ID. They'll ask for all your information. I think it's like name, address, birthday, stuff like that. You'll also have to upload a picture of yourself to put on the ID. And then it goes through their government agency, and then they'll let you know once it passes. Once it passes, you get a digital ID. You can't use that though for like KYCing or memberships or anything like that. But once you get the ID, you can then, or once you get the digital ID, they usually send you an email probably like 2 weeks later. I mean, it is a semi-lengthy process. I probably applied. Probably within about 2 weeks, I got the digital ID. And then once I got the digital ID, it was probably about a couple days later, and they let me know my physical ID shipped. And then it was probably about 2-ish weeks to get the physical ID. So I'd probably put it at about 4 to 6 weeks total process from the moment that I signed up to the moment I actually got a physical card in the mail. It was probably about a month and a half.
Not too bad. So
Yeah.
have you, I was kind of cracking up over here thinking about this, but have you tried to go and use this ID anywhere locally here in Austin, Texas?
I have not. I don't even really know where it would be applicable. I kind of was thinking about, I was like, we should just like go out for a night and just go bar hopping. And I just want to see if I could just hand them it's going to say Republic of Palo on it. I mean, it has my date of birth on it, and that's the main
white
thing.
as fuck too. They're
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
They're going to be like, where is this guy from? And then they're probably going to be thrown off because I just talk like a normal person and I don't have any accent or anything. So I'd be interested to test it. I should have, whenever I went to go pick up the alcohol today, I should have brought it and just brought it as my identification for, at the end of the day, it has my date of birth on it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I would assume they just look at the date of birth, be like, oh, this guy's over 21, all right, and then just let me in. But I wonder if it would turn any heads and be like, yo, what is this? Because I'm sure, like a bouncer, they've probably never seen that thing before. And they'll probably look at that and be like, I've never seen this kind of card before.
Yeah. I mean, imagine getting pulled over and you just giving the cop.
Yeah, I would not do that, but I'd be down to do it at like a bar and just start trying to get entry, but handed it over as an identification to a cop.
That's how you know it's a silent signal of like, hey, I got crypto. If you want to let this slide,
yeah.
drop me your wallet address. But I do like the concept. I think it is pretty cool. I think these countries that pretty much recognize like, look, we're a third world country with, a lot of third world countries have beautiful tourist spots, and they just can't get enough people there to really like bring them from a third world to a second world. And I think being able to recognize like, oh, crypto is something that is going to be here to stay for a while. This is a good opportunity. We should hop on it. I'm like, that's a solid idea. And I saw that, I think it's today, they actually had Ripple out.
I did see that. Yeah. Paolo had some. I didn't really go super deep into it, but it looks like Ripple and Paolo had some sort of a meeting together or something like that. So yeah, it's funny too because I actually did do a little bit of research on the country itself over the past several weeks since I got the card, and I had I've actually looked at some of the hotels and stuff like that and the resorts, and I'm like, dude, this place is freaking beautiful. I was like, I kind of want to go here on vacation sometime. The other thing that's nice is like they accept crypto in most places there. There's no tax on crypto.
That's pretty cool.
In their country. So I'm like, I'd probably go on a fairly cheap vacation there in crypto, non-taxed, nice, beautiful country with nice beaches on the water. I'm like, doesn't sound like a half bad idea. I don't know how the hell you get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming they got flights, but yeah, I was doing a little bit of deeper dives on like the different resorts and hotels and stuff like that they had in the country. I mean, it definitely looked very small and very, not a ton that was available, but what was available looked pretty freaking nice.
What we should do is record a Baking Profits episode directly from
live from Palo. That would be legit.
Get the government official in here, We'll bring some bourbon and be like, listen, this is what our show is about. Trust us. This is going to get viewed by millions.
We need to hit them up and just be like, listen, you fly us out there, cover all the costs and everything like that. We'll interview you on the podcast, promote Paolo a little bit. That would be a fun collab right there.
Next thing you know, they're trading gluten-free.
That's all you got to do.
So I know that, this is not the first time that you sort of interacted with a, I guess, project where the country was very pro crypto. Recently we've been, kind of just digging through a lot of the things that we had talked about in the past. And one of those happened to be a project called Satoshi Island, which I completely forgot about. I know when we talked about it, you were like, what? So as we did research, we did a little bit with just some surface level. It seems like they're still around. They just did their funding round. And I mean, we don't know anything about this project. So please do not go out and just be like, I'm going to buy this because they're talking about it. But it seems like a cool concept. And the gist of it is like you're buying ownership into this special island that is going to be a crypto island, essentially.
Yeah, crypto-centric island, yeah.
They're going to have little tiny homes, and it's an island in Fiji, and apparently, I don't know if it was, a government official or a project official or somebody interacted with Fiji's government and was like, this is a providence of our country, state, whatever. We want to turn this into a crypto island. They had to get approval to accept crypto. They had to get approval for all this stuff. They bought the land outright, but cool concept where we see, not only do we see like a digital economy, Web 3.0, but we see like, tying into our previous episode with the NFTs. Like,
yeah.
You had to buy an NFT. That was your ticket to this island. It's like, I like it.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. Essentially, someone buys, I assume they bought an island or owned an island, something along those lines. And then they were like, you know what, I'm deep into crypto. I'm going to make this a very crypto-centric island. You have to own a specific NFT to own a piece of the island or own a tiny home on the island to be able to, have residency there, things like that. So it's a really cool idea. I'm going to be interested. I want to see it like actually happen. I want to see tiny homes on the island live. I want to see people that own a specific Satoshi Island NFT have access to a specific, home or piece of the island or whatever. I think this is a really cool concept. It really goes kind of deep. If you didn't get a chance to listen to or watch our last episode on NFTs, we kind of touched on this in a way. Yeah. Not this specific idea from Satoshi Island, but the general idea of what the future of NFTs look like. And this is kind of a preview of that. So The funny thing is, I signed up for this like a year ago, and I could not figure out how to identify if I actually owned an NFT or not. Because, dude, I don't even know how you even reminded me of this, but I forgot completely about this whole thing
Yeah.
that I signed up for or went through the process of like a year and a half ago. But I couldn't figure out a way to verify whether or not I actually owned an NFT from them or not. So still kind of waiting from their website side of things. But I mean, their website looked cool. The island looked pretty cool. It's part of Fiji, so it's a real place. The at least the concepts of what their tiny homes look like, I'm like, they're pretty like modern looking, nice,
Yeah.
decent sized places. So it's an interesting concept, and I think some of these third world countries are going to have to like take the risk, and then if it proves to be beneficial, I think we'll just start seeing that adoption grow and grow and grow, and then maybe we'll start seeing some first world countries like have some level of something like that down the road.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of like, if you really want to think about it, because I was thinking about this after Satoshi Island, and I was like, is there a way that this could be done, within the States, for example? And I started thinking about it, and I was like, it kind of already is being done in a different way. Like, I took my kids last year to Disney World. Now, when you go to Disney World, it really is like its own city. I mean,
That's true.
you know this, you grew up in Florida, so when you drive into that area, first off, everything becomes Disney. Everything is advertised by Disney. The only thing that separates them from their own country, right, is a currency. But if they were like, you know what, we're going to accept Disney bucks, and Disney bucks was a cryptocurrency on the blockchain, right? All of a sudden, it would be exactly like Satoshi Island, but in Florida.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't really even think about it like that. I was thinking like, from the US side, like there's so much regulation, there's no way
Yeah.
this could happen, but I mean, it's actually kind of easier than most think about it. If you use your example right there, I'm like, it's not really that much work on their end. I mean, it probably is a lot of work at the end of the day, but, you know, realistically just changing the way they accept currency into their own currency makes it crypto basically.
Yeah, one of the things that the US government can never say is they can never stop a business from accepting cryptocurrency. Like I can sell whatever I want for whatever I want because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they recognize it as a or as a currency or, a piece of a rock. It's me selling my service or my product for, the whatever it is. And they have to accept that. And they do. And so what I'm getting at is if I owned a big piece of land and I was like, you know what, I'm going to put an amusement park here and I'm only going to accept crypto and I'm only going to cater to this niche audience and everything is going to be DeFi, centric and I'm going to create a project and there'll be a game. It's kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but it'll be for just my amusement park and people can digitally put stuff up. And it's like you could tie everything to it and build an entire economy around this amusement park and kind of circumvent the standard economy and probably make so much more money.
Oh yeah, it'll be way more lucrative for
And,
sure.
and this is 100% Web 3.0. So to me, it's like it's really interesting to think about what the future holds. And I think these projects like, Satoshi Island and even what Paolo is doing with its IDs, because I would assume that more is to come. Like these, especially if Ripple's out there, they're clearly thinking like there's something in there for them as well. And what will that be? Will that be a sponsor, project, whatever? It doesn't even matter. Maybe initiative. But as soon as, Paolo gets to the point where it's like, hey, we want to do something big in the crypto space, they're going to have, a wide audience to already speak to. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for, these type of ideas to flourish, but I'm really eager to see, what kind of happens. And I think as more people get opened up to crypto, they'll start to see these ideas. Because when you talk to someone about crypto, they don't think about things like this at all.
They think about scams, they think about massive gains, massive losses, things like that. They just, see it as this, volatile, crazy, out of thin air thing. But it's like, I think we talked about this. I don't think it was the last episode, but it might have been the episode before that, where we like all currency is basically fake
Yeah.
and made up in the air. But most people don't draw that like conclusion. They just think like the dollar is like, this hard and fast thing, and it's, it's backed by all this shit, and it's really, at the end of the day, it's as made up as crypto is. And just like every other freaking currency. So it's like, it's kind of one of those things where I think a lot of people just, they don't take the time to think about it. And then they're, I know for myself, my gears have turned on that kind of stuff, even over the last like 6 to 12 months. It's like, man, yeah, like crypto isn't that different from all this other shit. Even from the stock market, it's like, yes, the stocks move slow, less volatile and stuff like that. But, realistically, from a trading standpoint and concept standpoint and, an execution standpoint, it's roughly the same.
Yeah. I've studied a lot up on currencies, and, currencies is very strange because it is man-made, and it's the value that is put into it is the perception of what that value is. And it's like, if you go back to the year 200, currency was not like, if I went back to the year 200 and I showed somebody a piece of paper and was like, no, I'm going to buy all your wheat with this. What the hell is that? Like, wheat had value because wheat has a purpose, oil, gold, these things can be used, not just as like a form of currency, but like I could actually use it. Like, I could take this bread and I can eat it, but that's a currency. And so currency has gone back to the dawn of time. And it's just until recent times where it's like the currency is not things that we actually use. The only thing that you can use essentially dollar bills for is making a fire and keeping yourself warm.
True.
Which is fucking crazy because our entire world is guided by that piece of paper. And I think that is the biggest scare for crypto, is like, you remove that and it becomes digitalized, and it becomes more of a, like, I don't know, just a commodity and less a currency.
I mean, a lot of it is driven by supply and demand at the end of the day. I mean, I saw something that was kind of, I saw like, it was like a freaking like TikTok video or something like that, or just like a short video. And I was like, it's kind of eye opening to me. It was a person that was selling eggs next to another person that was selling eggs. One person was selling them for like, I don't know, it was like a 36 of them for like $10. And the other person was selling 36 for like $9. Well, what the one person did, the person that was selling it for $10 went over to the stand that was selling it for $9 and bought up all their eggs. And then they went back to their stand with all the extra eggs. And then they changed their price to $25. And it's like, they have no more competition, and they're the only supply, and there's demand for it. So they can price it whatever the fuck they want. And then it's almost like currency in a way, where it's just like, it's made up based off the supply and the demand and the interest in it, just like crypto is essentially. It's like, if there's demand for something, the price can consistently go up until the demand diminishes, and then it goes down. Very similar to real estate as well. Same concept for real estate is, and once the demand starts diminishing and there's not as much demand to buy homes, prices of the homes generally decrease. And then once that demand or the supply goes down, demand goes back up, and then the price goes back up. So it's a really interesting concept in just general economics and finance in general, but it really just shows you, if there's a demand there, you can really price it whatever the hell you want. If you've got a product and nobody knows about it, you're probably going to have to, lower your prices to get people to buy it. But then once it becomes super popular and everybody wants it, you could charge whatever the hell you want for it, because there's going to be a huge demand for it. And if there's a limited supply, it's game over. Which also ties back into our last episode of NFTs. Which is like the whole limited edition side of things. And, if you have a limited supply of something, you can continue to increase the price of it, which increases the value of it, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think all currency and finances are kind of built off that framework.
Yeah, one thing you kind of tied there together is the real estate. I hate that argument, though, because with real estate, it's like you get something that is physical. And with Bitcoin, you get nothing. And this goes back to my quote unquote boomerism of hating Bitcoin. It's like, God damn it, I fucking hate Bitcoin, man. There's no real fucking value there. But I mean,
what's the difference between that and any other currency, though?
that's what I was about to say. There's no difference except that people have put value in the dollar. Don't get me wrong. If I woke up tomorrow and everybody put value into Bitcoin, you bet your ass I'm gonna be like, Bitcoin for life, motherfuckers. For sure. But because the value right there is, I just don't see a majority of the world being like the majority of the world, I can go anywhere on the planet and spend $1. A US dollar has value everywhere. Not all currencies, like Zimbabwean. I can't go to the convenience store and spend whatever they call, Zimbabwe currency or rupees or whatever. Even Canadian money. I can't spend a Canadian dollar at my convenience store. But I've been to Canada and I've spent US dollars. I've been to Europe and I've spent US dollars because it's just accepted everywhere. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to my argument with this whole Bitcoin situation, several episodes ago that we talked about, which is like, okay, I don't understand how you can be pro crypto and anti Bitcoin. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand.
There's no utility. The utility is currency.
Yeah. So is the US dollar. So
exactly.
Is also, yeah, but I understand that it's not widely adopted at the moment. But if you believe crypto in the long run is going to be widely adopted, then Bitcoin is naturally going to be widely adopted, which is going to increase its value, increase its price. It's only got a certain amount of supply of it, which is going to increase the demand of it. It's like,
look, let me just say this. Let's say, okay, I'm about to start a basketball team, and I'm gonna poll people like, hey, do you want Joe Blow or LeBron James? LeBron James in this situation is the US dollar. He has a perfect track record of being an amazing basketball player. Similar to the US dollar, has a great track record of lasting this long and showing that, hey, we can, have an economy. A new player coming in playing LeBron James likely is going to lose, right? Unless you happen to be a LeBron James yourself, which the odds of that happening pretty slim to none. I think that Bitcoin, had it come in at the same time as US dollar, then it would be a flip of the coin. It would just be on who's adopting what. But to challenge the dollar, as soon as the dollar goes digital, the government is going to force their digital dollar. They are going to want to deter people from Bitcoin. There's always going to be Bitcoin maxis. And you know what? Bitcoin has a whopping $1 billion market cap. How much? What is the market cap? Or not, not 1 billion.
I'm what?
I'm in 100 billion, but
okay.
But I mean, how much is it? Like, I don't know.
I don't really know. I think it's like 500 billion, honestly.
Yeah, I think at the peak, like all of crypto was like valued less than Microsoft, and it's just like we're talking pennies, man. We're talking no money whatsoever. When it really boils down to the actual global economy, Bitcoin is trying to challenge every currency at the same time. It's trying to say, hey, I'm a currency of myself. And that I'm fine with that. It can be a currency of itself, but there's no utility behind that currency other than the fact that it's a currency and it can buy things. Whereas like Ethereum can act as a currency, but also has a lot of utility. Matic, same thing. You can use it as a currency. You have it as a utility. I'm not saying that I think those long term are going to be extremely successful, but I do like to put my odds in these things that are more than just a currency.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, but I in my opinion, at the end of the day, just Bitcoin comes with it. If you're bullish on crypto in general for the next 5 years, you have to be bullish on Bitcoin. Like, I don't understand how you cannot be,
I think Bitcoin will.
It's almost like, it's almost like in the stock market, being bullish on the stock market, but then being bearish on all the tech stocks. It's like, well, the tech stocks weigh like 30% of the market. So
that was a terrible example because I could easily shut that down. I mean, .com bubble.
No,
You're gonna have a bubble burst. Like, what if? Okay, here's a prime example.
not anytime soon. I'm talking like next 5 years.
Let's say, remember you just throwing out next 5 years.
That's
like
what I
that.
said. That's what I said
This
about
goes
crypto. I
back
said
to
if you're
TA and news, where it's like hindsight. It's like I proved my point, and you're like, oh wait, whoa.
no. I said a second ago. I said if you're bullish on crypto in the next 5 years, you can't not be bullish
I
on
don't think
Bitcoin.
You said 5 years. Good thing this is
Man,
recording.
We about to play this back.
I guess what my point is like, look, I definitely think that Bitcoin is going to go up if crypto goes up. I'm not arguing that. And I'm not arguing that Bitcoin is going to be here for the long term. I'm just saying, like, I don't like to invest in things that I personally don't believe in. I mean, shit, man. I mean, I think Philip Morris as a company is going to last a long time, but I don't smoke cigarettes and I don't like to support smoking cigarettes. And so I just don't buy into it. But do I think it's going to be a good, stable stock for a long, long time? Yeah, it probably will be. And it has been for a very long time. So there are, I guess, like ways that you can spin it as an investor. But for me, it's just like, I think that the potential growth, like if Bitcoin is 500 billion, even if it eventually goes to its peak, which what I think was close to $1 trillion valuation, how can it 10x from there? Whereas things like Matic can easily 10x from now and from there.
Yeah, I mean, I get that from a market cap standpoint. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sit here and say, like, if Bitcoin has a $500 billion market cap right now, 10xing that, I mean, that's an astronomical number. So, and then when you compare that to the stock market right now, I mean, you're talking, bigger numbers than any of the individual stocks combined in Bitcoin, which I think that's a long ways off. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, is like, if you're going to be bullish on crypto, you kind of have to, it's just, Bitcoin comes with that. It's just part of the, it's part of the package deal with crypto.
Yeah.
And I think, over time, I think Bitcoin will be accepted a little bit more and more frequently. And I don't really think it's that different from any other currency that's out there, except the fact that there's only a limited supply of it, which obviously, in my opinion, is in its favor compared to the, inflation and diminishing returns that you get from other currencies.
I think it'll be made to seem like it's a novelty. I think the governments around the world Bitcoin is not good for them. Like, it's not good for China. It's not good for US. It's not good for India. It's not good for any second or first world country. The countries that it boosts the most are third world and beyond.
100%.
And
unless you're like, what was it, Venezuela that bought in at like 69K? Ouch.
And this is, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's a prime example of why countries don't want Bitcoin in their ecosystem. They don't want their citizens to lose that money, not putting it into their economy. If they lose it in US dollars, like if they go to a casino and lose all of their wealth in one night, that still goes to the economy. The casino is going to have to pay taxes on that. The casino is going to do something with that. But when it goes to Bitcoin or especially when a government, a third world country is using it, it's like, we don't know what's happening with that. I mean, we don't know anything of what's happening with Bitcoin. I mean, that's the argument of like, what's good about crypto is like, there isn't.
That's why a lot of these countries are pushing their own, digitalized token or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think is going to happen. I think every currency that exists today is going to be digitalized.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely happening.
So then Bitcoin becomes another currency.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, maybe that's a topic for another podcast episode, but it's going to be interesting to see what, the outlook is in the next 5 to 10 years of, finance if, all these countries have their own digitalized token. What happens to like actual crypto at that point?
Yeah. I still can't get over the fact that I said that Bitcoin was valued at $1 billion. And then I sat here and looked at you like you're an idiot. I'm
That's
like,
embarrassing.
This guy not getting what I'm saying? Like,
I was like, what?
All right, folks. I think this is a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Again, if you'd like to, you can follow the Crumbs on our socials at Baking Profits, at the Bread Maker, at Bread Bites, at DeFi Donut. And again, have a wonderful day.
Till next time. Have a good one.